Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our last part of our three-part series of Mental Health Speaks and Mental Health Matters. We are so happy that you joined us for all of our other conversations, and we are so unbelievably excited to have the amazing Faith join. I have been waiting for this for such a long time, and I just am so excited to get her on, to be able to get her on very shortly, and have such an important conversation. So hopefully she'll be able to come on. There she is. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
It is so good to meet you. We
Thank
are
you.
such huge fans of
Thank
yours.
you.
I have to say that your Instagram page, I think, got so many of us through the
Oh,
pandemic. I have to
okay. Oh, please. I'm not
say,
prepared to cry today, so we need to.
well, well, we are so happy you've taken some time and you're joining us today. I have so many questions. I think even learning more about you, about your journey, about
Mhm.
everything you've done has just for you more. And I just can't wait for our community to learn more about your work, your writings, your amazing page,
Thank you.
but honestly, just the fierce warrior that you are. So I know everyone already knows who you are. However, if there are a few people that just don't, can you just take a moment to share a little bit about who you are and the work that you do as a mental health advocate?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Faith Broussard Cade, and I have a platform here on Instagram called Fleur de Lis Speaks, which is kind of derivative of Fleur de Lis Sweets. In a different life, was a full-time school counselor, and I had a baking business and a food blog on the side that was called Fleur de Lis Sweets. I am originally from New Iberia, Louisiana, born and raised Southern Louisiana girl on the bayou, literally. And I now live in Atlanta with my husband and my 6 year old daughter, Bean, who is very present in my Instagram feed. Um, and I worked as um, a professional school counselor for about 10 years and then transitioned and pivoted into seeing clients privately via Zoom once the pandemic hit. And so that's the majority of what I do, in addition to trying to encourage and just help people find themselves and find comfort in their own mental health and self-care journeys. Um, and I always say, people ask me, like, what is your goal? What is it that you want to do? And really what I want to do is to have someone be able to be scrolling through Instagram and be able to bypass all of the noise and all of the just stuff that's there. And if they're having a bad day, to be able to happen upon my post and for it to bring them just like, even if it's 30 seconds of light in a dark day, really, that's what I'm trying to do. And that's mostly what I do.
And I have to say that you've so succeeded at the
Thank
alignment. For anybody who's joining us that doesn't know about us, we are the leading national nonprofit organization for the outreach, education, early intervention, and advocacy for all eating disorders. And the pandemic has been so rough on our. We are
you.
looking at epidemic rates of eating disorders, of acuity, a lot of feelings, I think, in the eating disorder community, but I think as a collective whole of not having control, not knowing what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And a lot of people that have shared with me that at times they felt very hopeless. And
Yeah.
that I noticed about your account that I was even noticing for me as someone who has, years and years of recovery under my belt and thought, I had moved on from, the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, and all of a sudden, 2020 comes and uh, all of a sudden my anxiety
Yeah.
comes up is what I was noticing when I was doom scrolling, which I found myself doing a lot, is your post would pop up and it was like the universe was like, all right, Joanne, let's stop, let's read this. And like I found myself coming back to your post a lot. And I think that that's so much of what you do, your purpose is like
Mm-hmm.
having people stop, ground, take in the words and sort of feel the words within their being. So I just want to know, what was the impetus behind it? Like,
Oh, wow.
learning so much about you makes so much sense, but I would love for you to share, like, why did that start?
Why? In full transparency, absolute tragedy and desperation is what was the impetus. It was the entire motivation behind all of my posts. Like I said in the beginning, I was a professional school counselor in an elementary school, and I had done it for a little over 10 years. On my way to work one morning to that school, I was in a car accident. I was hit from behind by a tractor trailer. And from that accident, I sustained a concussion and a traumatic brain injury, from which I'm still in recovery. And that was January 9th, 2018. I remember the day vividly. But that then, kind of like COVID has done for a lot of people, that incident completely threw my life um, into this cycle of discomfort and a cycle of uncertainty.
Mhm.
I was in very, very bad shape. I'm struggling with insomnia and chronic pain, um, memory loss, all these different things, struggling with when I'm talking, trying to find my words, struggling with that kind of thing. Whereas I'd always been a helper and a counselor, it was like jarring to me that now I was the person needing help. I was the person who needed help getting out of bed in the morning. At the time, Bean was only 3.5 years old. So I had a toddler and a husband and a home, all these things that I'm trying to shuffle while I'm just trying to wake up every morning. Like literally some days getting up out of the bed every morning was my goal. And I found myself after a while still not being able to return to work because I was still in recovery. So I was forced to resign from my career that I had loved and poured so much into for so many years. And I found myself in a very dark place, literally a dark place of um, not really knowing what was next for me, right? Because in a lot of ways, our jobs and the way we help people and what we do becomes a part of our identity and how we value ourselves. And so it's like, well, if this is taken away from me, well, then what am I going to do now? I'm just going to be at home. And I found myself struggling with finding my place.
Mhm.
I was suffering with anxiety about the future and depression, all these other things that are actually symptoms of traumatic brain injuries. But at the time, I hadn't been diagnosed properly. So I didn't know what I was experiencing. And it got to a place where now my family's gone down from two incomes to one because I've had to resign from my job. There is no space, no resources, no money for self-care that is all over social media, right? Like spa days and trips and all these shopping sprees. There was no, I didn't have space or resources for that. And so I decided that I needed to figure out a way to have sustainable and consistent self care. How do I do that um, in a way that is meaningful, in a way that will really impact my healing journey? And I came up with this idea to do like a 15-day self love challenge. And I told myself I would write myself a little note like, anybody can find 5 minutes during the day. I'm
Mhm.
not too busy for that. I'm going to take 5 minutes,
Mhm.
write myself a note, and I'm going to post it on Instagram for accountability so that I don't like, flake out on myself. And I did it. And after a few days, those notes started gaining traction and people started liking and commenting and responding and sending me DMs and thanking me for my transparency and my vulnerability and really, helping them to be able to walk away from abusive situations, deciding that they would pursue and check themselves into recovery centers. They didn't know what they would do with their careers, and they're leaving for the Navy in a couple of weeks. Like, and so then 15 days was over, and I was like, heck, I can't stop writing these. Like, what? I was just doing this for a little while, and now it's turning into a whole thing. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And the push was to just keep going, and it is literally. I think I wrote my first note on May 17th, 2018. So it literally has just been
That's,
just past 3 years. And I am so blessed and so grateful for just the entire movement that they have created. It wasn't something I ever intended or something I ever wanted. It was me trying to find my own healing. But the biggest takeaway that I found from all of this is that individual healing leads to collective healing.
yes.
And so, me pursuing that journey so authentically and transparently and organically that it gave people courage and permission to pursue their own healing journey. And I'm so, so grateful for that. I never take it for granted.
I think I mean, thank you so much for sharing and
Mm-hmm.
being so vulnerable and honest. And I think that, as to you share, the one word that just kept on coming to me was just this unbelievable amount of resiliency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many of us, have have types of stories where you feel like you cannot get back up, that
Of course.
your purpose was taken away from you, that you'll never be able to take that next either physical or proverbial step again.
Yeah.
Um, and I think what it just shows us is that, we are resilient humans.
Mm-hmm.
I think that having that reminder through your words, because I do believe that words are healing. I do believe that they do make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
When I was going through my journey of recovery, my one therapist used to say to me all the time, Joanne, I want you to do affirmations. And I was like, please, like, I think they're hoping
Yeah.
to tell myself I love myself,
Right.
beautiful, because that just doesn't feel authentic. And so
Mm-hmm.
I remember my homework well. She was like, well, find an affirmation that you really connect to.
Right.
For a few days, the affirmation that I connected to was I deserve, which was
Mm-hmm.
big. It's two little words that like
Mm-hmm.
were so monumental. And I have to tell you, at the beginning, I was just saying them. She's like, I want you to say them. I need you to hear it in your own voice. And it was like someone else was speaking and I just was a bystander walking next to it. And then at one point, I connected my head, body, my soul connected to
Yeah.
words. And all I could do was cry because
Mm-hmm.
I, it felt so not in line with how I felt. I valued myself in that moment. And so I really do believe that, you know, going through the tragedy, and
Mm-hmm.
picking yourself literally up, dusting yourself off and saying, what am I going to do to help heal me? And then have the beauty and the gift that you've been able to give to so many people. And let me tell you, I've seen your writing on, I mean, some people, I'm like, you know, like, yeah, Donda like reposted your stuff. I was,
Yeah.
that's right,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy that the universe has seen your work, been able to lean into your words, because I feel like we all need so much of collective healing right now. We've all been through a collective trauma, and it's still
Absolutely.
over for a lot of us. Um,
Absolutely.
and so finding these, and I like what you say, because, self-care isn't, a lot of the self-care we see isn't attainable for a
Right.
lot.
Right.
But the way that you delivered it is not only attainable, but it's doable and
Mm-hmm.
digestible, and it just is unbelievable. So I guess my next question to you is, because we know that words are healing,
Mhm.
how do you think words are healing? Like, how do you think that happens?
I think it happens through, it's kind of cathartic. And I find words as being extremely therapeutic. So even before I was a counselor, even before I knew that I wanted to pursue that, from I guess a very young age was like a diary person, right? Like
Mhm.
my mom bought me the traditional diary with the little key that you
So,
can lock. I mean, the whole nine. I've always been a writer. Always, always, always. Um, very much into literature, very much into reading. And I remember so many times not being able to express on my own what I was feeling or what I was thinking, but then reading a book and identifying with a character that was expressing the exact things that I was feeling inside but could never share or express, that was extremely powerful to me, because when I couldn't speak for myself, when I couldn't share my emotions with someone else to get them to get it,
mhm.
it's like I got it. That character in that book got it for me. And at that point, at a very young age, it helped me to understand that words have power. Words embody emotions.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we don't have those words, but we know how we feel. And if we can just connect those words
Yeah.
to our feelings, then we can express ourselves and explain ourselves to other people and form those connections. A lot of times, though, connecting with others is not, it doesn't feel comfortable. There are a lot of people who are extremely introverted, or
Mhm.
people who have social anxieties and things like that. That trying to explain themselves to someone else is extremely difficult. But being able to write how they feel
Yeah.
down is extremely therapeutic. And I think that's what it is. It's that mind, body, spirit or soul, and then pen connection, right? To
Mhm.
just have it come all the way through and be able to come out on paper. It's a beautiful thing. I even with my clients tell them, those negative thoughts that you're having about yourself in your head, like, you would never say those things to your best friend, right? When you put on an outfit and you start critiquing yourself in the mirror in your head, you would never say that to a friend who is wearing a new outfit. But you do it because it's in your head, and that's in a safe space where it's not spoken and
Mhm.
it's not materialized. I said, try thinking those thoughts that you think about yourself out loud, right? Say those things out loud to yourself. Then it sounds really awful, and why would you ever do such a thing? Or if you're thinking about something and it feels kind of strange, write it down on paper. Does it seem really weird on paper? Then it probably isn't resonating with you. It's probably not in alignment with who you are.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you talked about is, it's really a game changer when you can connect with someone where maybe
Mm-hmm.
specific words yet to say how you're feeling, but then you'll read it in a book. And, in our instance, we see that happen every day in our support groups.
Mm-hmm.
We have numerous free therapist-led support groups. And what's so beautiful about the group is that you can walk into this space. You don't have to be on camera. You don't have to
Right.
share. You don't,
Yeah,
but inevitably you're going to hear someone say something that feels like they can see you from the inside.
absolutely.
And in that, you do not feel so alone, or you feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's other people that are on this journey that might be a few steps ahead, a few steps
Mm-hmm.
behind, but at least you're not on your own on this journey. So I think that that is so unbelievably true.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to really sort of lead the conversation because you have an amazing TED Talk, which I hope that
Oh,
everybody,
thank you.
I called use what you have. Please take a moment and watch it. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe you had to do that in the pandemic, so on top
Right.
of everything else. But it's excellent. You talk a lot about like self-discovery. You talk a lot
Absolutely.
about, using things that have happened to you as opportunities for change.
Hmm.
So how do you remind yourself that, self-discovery is a journey, that you don't
Hmm.
have, a 1,000-page autobiography written in
Right.
indelible ink in the moment you
Mhm.
start? How is that process for you?
Um, I think I think real life experience is what taught me that it's a journey and that it's not a destination, right? So, um, I would say the car accident was definitely the catalyst for a lot of this. But even before that, when you become a spouse of someone and
Mhm.
you things are going well and you think it's great, right? There's no manual on marriage, and then something happens and there's a disagreement about something. You're like, whoa, I didn't know that this was going to happen, and you're trying to reconcile still loving this person but not necessarily agreeing with what they feel or what they think, and trying to figure that out. So you're like taking steps forward and then taking some steps back, and it's a constant learning. Then Bean came along and I had a baby, and there's no manual on raising a child. And there was like, oh, this is great. Like, we got this going. This is going well. She's meeting all her milestones. She's doing this. She's crawling. But with every milestone that is met, there's like a learning curve that has to come. There's more things that you have to learn and understand. And so then that brings you back.
Mhm.
Well, then with this car accident, very much my healing and recovery journey showed me that literally everything in life is a journey. There were days when I wake up and my only goal was to be able to get out of the bed, get me to school, and get home and get back in bed. Then there were other days where, oh, I'm feeling great. I can do this and this and this. And then the next day, maybe I had overworked myself the day before. And so then all I could do was get out of bed. It was a constant back and forth, always to try to understand that it's less about like me getting to the finish line, but
Mhm.
more about me like grasping these pieces of knowledge and information and these nuggets of wisdom along the way that
Mhm.
can sustain me for this lifelong journey that I'm going to be going on, because nothing is written in stone, nothing is definite, nothing is permanent, and things are always going to be
Mhm.
shifting. Changes are going to happen, like this pandemic, and then things were getting better, and then things got worse, and the numbers went up and down. We're never going to be able to plan for everything.
No,
And so that's a big part of it, understanding that literally everything that happens in life is a back and forth journey. Nothing is permanent.
I love that. And I think that, what you shared about your recovery journey after your accident is such a beautiful example of so many of the community that we work with. Like the journey to recovery is that there's going to be some days where, hey, just getting out of bed, taking a shower,
Absolutely.
rest, like that is success. And then there's going to be days where you're going to be able to do a bunch of things on your to-do list, or you're going to be able to show up. And just because you have days that, if all you did that day was get out of bed, take a shower, brush your teeth, like that doesn't negate the good days. Like you can't
Absolutely.
days. So um, I love that reminder. I love that. I think so often we're so focused on the end result,
Mm-hmm.
don't stop and look at what's going on in this moment. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why, going back to your work and your words, do such a beautiful job at grounding, because I think that we're in a society that's, you have to go, 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 you have to be connected 24/7.
Absolutely.
Many of us with the whole work from home, like the boundaries were blurred a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we really need to be aware that there is no timeline on recovery. There is no, this is where I need to be, this is where I have to end, and really giving us the opportunity to realize that every day is a huge opportunity to show up, and to do the things that we were destined to do, to become the humans that we were always destined to be. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
just your amazing reminder that it's really the journey and not a destination is such a tremendous reminder. So I have two more questions for
Mm-hmm.
you. One of the things that I think that your account and your platform um, has done so beautifully is create the sense of community amongst your just your members in a sense.
Yeah,
When you think of community, and you touched on this before, why do you think that having a community is so important to the healing process? I'm sure you experienced that, with your healing from your
mm-hmm.
car accident, but why do you think community is so important? And the reason why I ask is that for many of the folks that are experiencing and recovering from eating disorders, and I believe to say maybe all mental illness, there's this idea that because it's above the neck, we should be able to do it on our own. That
Absolutely.
we're not able to do it on our own, then there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong with us. When in actuality, we deserve care. We need
Mm-hmm.
care. In fact, it's imperative, and we can't do it alone. So, would
Absolutely.
love to know more of what you think about that.
I mean, the entire point of community and the importance of it all stems around helping people to know that they are not alone. I think something that this pandemic especially has done, which is why I think we've seen such a huge spike in instances of mental health issues and diagnoses
Mhm.
and anxiety, depression, eating disorders, all of these things, bipolar episodes and things like that, is because we live in a society where there's a lot of emphasis being put on do things for yourself, right? And there's this selfishness that's driven throughout all of it. I'm not talking about self-care or self-love, but selfishness that means I'm going to get what I need and I don't care about how that affects anyone else. Really, like we're islands and we're existing on our own. And that is completely untrue.
Mhm.
We are meant to be communal beings. We are meant to be in community with others. And even those of us who are introverts, I'm a huge introvert, but I do have my like 4.23 friends that I'm very close to that fill me up when I need it, that pour back into me, right? So like a dead battery cannot jump off another battery. Like you need people around you who can give you the boost that you need when you need it most. And you cannot exist in a vacuum and think that you can provide yourself with everything that you need. It's not possible. It wasn't meant to be that way. That's why we do have friends, loved ones, family members that we maintain healthy boundaries with
Mhm.
that are able to help pour back into us. But we were never meant to carry the weight of this life alone. It's impossible. And I think that sense of isolation and aloneness, and that everyone else seems to be doing it way better than we are doing it. Everyone else is handling this just fine. Their house is still perfect. Their families are still perfect. They're still making organic meals for their kids. Their kids aren't watching iPads all day. Like, that's not real life. We feel alone because most of us have a fear of being transparent.
Mhm.
And I think that's why a lot of people identify with what I do and my platform, because I'm an open book. Like I really honestly, since the brain injury, don't have the capacity to try to keep up appearances, right? Like it's
Yeah.
too much
Yeah.
work. It's too much work. I have a limited capacity, and with that comes complete honesty and transparency. I struggle with the same things that any woman would struggle with, any mother, any wife, any counselor. I struggle with those same things. At some point during this interview, Bean will walk in here and think that she's whispering to ask me for a snack. And just like every other mom that gets interrupted on a work call,
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes. I have loads of clean laundry piled up in the guest room that hasn't been folded or put away. And we're digging out of piles every day to get dressed.
Yeah.
It just is the way it is. And I don't have a problem admitting that. But me being transparent and open about that and admitting that,
Hmm.
that then allows another mom to say,
Me too.
me too. That's hard for me too. I'm struggling with this too. I don't know how to do that either. And that is where the sense of community
Yeah.
comes from, of being able to identify with similar
Mhm.
experiences, similar emotions, similar struggles. Sometimes motherhood is hard for me. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself in the midst of it. Sometimes I can't remember the things that I enjoy or the things that I enjoyed before I was a mom because I'm consumed in taking
Mhm.
care of this tiny human. That is okay to say. It doesn't mean that you don't love your kids. It doesn't mean that you're not a devoted wife or partner. It literally just means that you are human. And I think if we took a poll and everyone was required to be honest, 99.9% of people would be feeling the same way at the
I,
same time.
I feel so seen right now because there's guarantee you my little tiny human, as I call her, is probably like she's waiting at my house, probably asking for snacks. I'm absolutely closing my dryer that's been sitting there for about
Right.
that I've kept on putting
Mm-hmm.
like the dryer back on. Like maybe it'll get like the creases.
Right.
Um, but I appreciate that because when you allow when you allow yourself to be honest, like I feel like there's this connection that happens, and I think that's like
Absolutely.
community. Um, at the beginning of the pandemic, as I shared earlier, like I'm very blessed and privileged to say that I have 2 decades of recovery from my eating disorder under my belt, and
Wow.
I've definitely had my anxiety was definitely
Mm-hmm.
waned. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden I was lying in bed thinking that I wasn't going to wake up in the morning because
Yeah.
my anxiety was so bad. And at the beginning it was I know that I'm given this amazing privilege and opportunity to run a national organization.
Mm-hmm.
I love to be that person to say, I'm not a unicorn, you can recover too.
Right.
And then I found myself showing up into spaces at the beginning inauthentically, being like, okay, well, I can be like the home edit and like do my
Right.
show up and run an organization. I tried one drawer and it was a
Yeah,
disaster.
it didn't
So I
work.
moved. But then I will tell you, I was sitting in a board meeting, and I was for the Eating Disorders Coalition that I'm very lucky to be part of. And everyone's going around sharing at the beginning how they're doing, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was good, I'm good, I'm good. And it got to me and like, I'm a disaster. Like,
Right.
I'm a disaster. For me, I had to up my meds, my
Mm-hmm.
therapy, all of that. And something happened where all of a sudden, all those other board members were like, yeah, me too. You know,
Yeah.
and just this moment of allowing people to be seen and heard for who they are and what they're going through made it that much
Yeah.
easier just in that moment to know
Right.
alone.
Right. And being honest about where they are. Like
Yep.
nobody's saying that every day is going to be difficult. Nobody's saying that every day, like for the rest of your life, you won't be on top of laundry. But right now, in this particular situation, in this season of your life, just like nothing is permanent, the struggle's not permanent either. Like you will get relief from that in some way, but right now you're focusing on getting through where you are right now. You don't have to worry about where you've been or where you're going to be in 10 years. Today, this is what's on my plate. This is what my capacity is to handle. And my capacity to handle what comes at me today is not a reflection of my capability. Like right now, things are just extremely difficult for everyone, and we're all doing the best that we can. We're all trying to take care of the things that are most important, because
Mhm.
a lot of things will look like they're important, but they may not be priorities. And so I think that's a big part of it too, is figuring out from day to day what is a priority for me today. And I struggle with setting priorities. partially because of the brain injury and
Mhm.
having issues with sustaining attention and
Mhm.
focusing and concentration. And part of it is anxiety of looking at this laundry list of things to do and not knowing where to start. Like, all of this looks like it needs to be done today. The world's going to blow up if I don't figure out everything on my to-do list, when really that's not the case. We have to take things in digestible chunks.
100%. So well said. Thank you so much. And I know that we're trying to get out of time, but first and foremost, before I ask my last question,
Mm-hmm.
is we've gotten so many messages from people when we posted that we were going to have this conversation, just to say thank you. Your account has literally helped
Oh, thank
individuals
you.
on their journeys to recovery,
Mm-hmm.
help them connect to care, has been inspiring on the journey. So I would never go so far as speak on behalf of a community, but I will tell you on behalf of me and our team here at the
Uh-huh.
Alliance, thank you so much for your work, for
You're
existing,
welcome.
and for allowing us to be who we are in the community that we were meant to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, out of all of the words, all of the quotes, all of the affirmations that you've written,
Mm-hmm.
there one that has particularly stood out to you or that you come back to um, time after time? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think um, it's actually one of the ones that I um, wrote during a particularly uh, difficult time. Um, I think back to that time and how hard it was, but I pushed through. It was during a time um, when I thought I was doing something of meaning, when I thought I was participating in something that would have turned into an ongoing partnership or an ongoing friendship and relationship, and
Mhm.
it actually turned out to not work out that way. And I was a little bit devastated, a lot devastated, to be honest.
Mhm.
um, but also um, questioning myself and questioning whether there was something that I had done that had caused the deterioration of that relationship. And I remember I was on a beach, and a beach is my happy place. I will absolutely will own a beach house someday. And being around water is so peaceful for me. And I remember being on a beach, um, just sitting there processing, being her dad are in the background flying pirate kites, and I'm just sitting there being quiet. And I remember writing this note, and it said, I found my hero. She's been inside of me the entire time. And
Mhm.
I think, without a doubt, that is probably the most powerful note that I go back to, because we live in a world that is telling us that everything that we need and everything that's going to help us and everything that's going to bring us happiness is outside of ourselves, right? Like, buy more of this, acquire more of this, fix this about yourself, fix that about yourself. And really, everything that we've ever needed, every bit of courage and resilience and bravery that we've ever needed has always been inside of ourselves. Always. Have we always been able to uncover it or recognize it or see it? Absolutely not, especially when we're going through those hard times, those dark times, when the anxiety and depression seems to take over, when we seem like we can't even think straight, or we're deep in the throes of trying to recover from something.
Mhm.
It's hard for us to see within ourselves our own strength and our own capacity to pull ourselves out of it. But ultimately, when we tap into our own strength, when we really see what we have inside of us, that's how we make it through. That's how we pull ourselves out of those holes. That's how we really, um, not necessarily become the person that we've always wanted to be, but that's when we realize we've always been the person that we wanted to be. We
Mhm.
just we just had not uncovered her yet.
Yeah.
And to me, that's probably the most beautiful and and powerful part of recovery and of the healing journey is that as you go along, you uncover more and more bits of yourself. You uncover your purpose, you uncover your calling, you uncover those things that really have kept you alive all along. Like, you've been doing it all this time. You can keep going. You can keep doing it. And you're going to be okay.
I thank you for all of your words and thank you for saying that. I know so many people that are watching us now needed to hear that.
Mm.
And as you were talking, it just brought me back to something that I say all the time at the Alliance in our groups, that you do not recover to utopia, you recover to life. And life is
Yeah,
sunshine, bunnies, and rainbows, but it's extraordinary.
it
And
is.
what a beautiful conversation. I
Mm.
cannot thank you enough for all your words of wisdom. So we live by the beach, so you'll have to come down
Oh, oh,
with us.
I'd be happy to.
Uh, and you can meet our director,
Mhm.
our director of Southern Smash, who is a Bayou girl herself. So
Oh, awesome.
get along with her and all of our team. So anytime you want to come down here, the beach will be waiting. But Faith, thank you. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for the community you have created. Thank you for being such a beacon of light and hope for so many through a very difficult time, and for being the essence of resiliency. So I really love to stay in touch
Of
and
course.
just for everything that you do. And
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Joy, and I'm so grateful.
absolutely take good care. And to
Thank
all of you who joined us, thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself. Please stay safe. And we look forward to have you join us at our next event that we do. Take care. Thanks again, Faith.
you. Bye.